Welcome to the North Chapel, those of you who are here with us, and it's so good to see all of your faces. I'm Ann Marinello, and I look forward to sharing this time with you. Our minister, Dunkley, will be giving the reflection today. Please check the announcements in your program. All are invited to coffee hour after the service. It's down in the social hall, which can be accessed either by the stairs here or at the back. You go down the stairs to the left. It's a wonderful opportunity to connect with others, old friends, and people new to our community. Childcare is available with Tatum today, and Tatum's here. There are hearing devices at the back of the church and large print programs for anyone to use. And Mary, you had an announcement you wanted to make.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to thank all of you who bought wreaths or unloaded wreaths or delivered wreaths or all of the different things you've done for the wreath sale. And those of you who still haven't picked up your wreath can do so after the service. I'll be downstairs, and I'll be here actually until 1. And we have 6 extra wreaths if anybody forgot to put in an order. So see me downstairs and I will help you. Thank you so much.
I'm glad to tell you about a new offering that is developed this month, Wednesday evening pasta and salad in the social hall. Leon's made great pasta and Mary Blanton has made huge, wonderful salads. We'd love to have you join us when you can, though this week we are skipping it due to Thanksgiving. But mark your calendars. It's a little cold out for pizza night or lunch by the river, so we're starting pasta night to provide time together to get together, and I hope you'll join us. All are welcome. Donations are appreciated. Is there anyone else who had an announcement that?
Good morning, everyone. December 15th is a save the date that Leon mentioned last Sunday. And the World Central Kitchen, if you don't know about that, is a marvelous organization. Their motto is "We feed people," and they have an inspiring documentary about how they feed people in all the crisis areas of war. You may remember their trucks got bombed in Gaza. They're in North Carolina. They go wherever there's a crisis for climate or any kind of crisis, no matter how dangerous, and they feed people. So our fundraiser on the 15th, Sunday afternoon, 3:30 to 5:30, will include poetry, music, dance, and food. And so please, I was thinking if everybody here who's here right now brought 2 or 3 other people, we could fill the church. So don't hesitate to invite your friends to come. And it's such a good cause, and I think it will be really entertaining 2 hours. So mark your calendars, the 15th. It's the last day of Wassail weekend. It's a busy time, but it's an important thing. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristen McIntyre, and I was thinking of lighting, a candle of gratitude for this community today. And instead I'm going to talk about the pledge drive as a way of showing gratitude. So it looks like we're at $76,936. Here's another mic for my soft voice there. $76,936, and 43 people have pledged, and we're still taking pledges. Perhaps we've officially closed, but not really, and we'd love more people to participate. I thought I'd share a couple words about, okay, there are envelopes. I just wanted to share a couple of words about why I pledged to North Chapel. I've been coming here for 6 years and started when my daughter Ella was just 1. Sky joined since then, she's 4. We had moved from New Orleans and I didn't have a lot of friends here. And it was amazing to come and have someone sit with Ella and to be able to meditate, have Leon stretch me spiritually. Sometimes we all laughed, sometimes we cried, and to start to connect with people here. And we had moved from New Orleans, where every Saturday we would go down to an early show at DBA's on Frenchman Street and hear John Boutet sing. And the same group of people would go every week, and we were all generations from all neighborhoods and backgrounds. Many of the people had gone through the aftermath of Katrina together, and it was a place to come together in community and have our spirits touched by the music. And John would talk about what was going on in the world and then just play this spirit-moving music. And I was amazed to find a place in Vermont in the depths of winter where I found similar community and also spirit. And North Chapel has become more meaningful to me over the years. My family has gone through changes, and the community here has been grounding and supportive, and there have been great friendships. And also, the world continues to face such big challenges. And I love coming to a place that grounds me in perspective and where action-oriented solutions are offered. For example, Bob Williamson, who does such good work on gun control, offered us all the ability to write postcards and make calls this past election. And I love seeing Bob at the pool or others of you at Max and around town, and we might give a fist bump or a smile. And we know that we've kind of opted into this community that's cool, thoughtful, fun, and taking action when there are challenges in the world. So that's why I give to North Chapel and why I feel grateful to be part of this community. Thank you.
Our opening words today are from the hymnal, To the Four Directions. It's an old favorite of mine, and I just find soothing, some Indian words. And after the opening words, there'll be a time of quiet and meditation. And so this is called To the Four Directions. Spirit of the East, spirit of air, of morning and springtime, be with us as the sun rises in times of beginnings, times of planting. Inspire us with a fresh breath of courage as we go forth into new adventures. Spirit of the South, spirit of fire, of noontime and summer, be with us through the heat of the day and help us to be ever growing. Warm us with strength and energy for the work that awaits us. Spirit of the West, spirit of water, of evening and autumn, be with us as the sun sets and help us to enjoy a rich harvest. Flow through us with a cooling, healing quietness and bring us peace. Spirit of the North, spirit of earth, of nighttime and winter, be with us in the darkness, in the time of gestation. Ground us in the wisdom of the changing seasons as we celebrate the spiraling journey of our lives.
Good morning. I hope this new day finds you well. Today is Sunday, November 24th, and the title of this morning's reflection is Until the Ego is the Servant of the Soul. To all souls, I say a good morning. It is good to be together. The road is full of heartache, and a heart is full of stone, and I'm calling on the Lord to come on. all your glory be, open up our eyes to see. You know I'm a doubter, and I like to think I'm right, but still, may it be your will and not my own. Shatter all my bones, and build me up a righteous man. Oh Lord, what a sinner I am, asking you to forgive me. I don't know, friends. Do you think that we can do this? Do you think that we could learn to live together? I say that, but it's hubris. Of course, I know that we can do this. I know that we can learn to live together. But we have to get over the ego. It's a big battle for me, for sure. How many people have a healthy ego? How many people are proud of their healthy ego? Sometimes it takes a crisis to get over the ego. Sometimes it takes a loving crisis, but it's possible. Carolyn Meese doesn't think it's possible. She thinks it's inevitable. She says that it always happens in our 40s, she says, but I think it can happen at any time. Carolyn Meese is a doctor. She's an MD, medical doctor. She's also a spiritual healer. She works in several different modalities, and she believes that we can always get over our ego. She says that it's archetypal. We will become discontent with our identity. It's simply a given, and I'm quoting her here. She says there's nothing unique about it. It will happen. Your ego identity will become insufficient for the rest of the journey. It's not because your ego, not because your ego is about, it's because your ego is about what it can take. And you'll develop an appetite for what you can give. Does that make sense? Continuing, she says, you have to train your ego. You have to smack it, she says, so that it becomes the servant of your soul, so that it becomes the watchdog at the gate of who you are, so that it represents you with your integrity. That part of you needs to become the bark that protects integrity. How good are you at smacking down your ego? How good are you at taming it until it becomes the servant of the soul? I grew up in a good family. We were proud. We are proud. I grew up with a lot of pride. There wasn't a lot of smacking down of the ego going on. We were not arrogant. We were gracious and humble, but we were also very proud, which is in one sense good. We were not ashamed of ourselves in any way, which is to say that we didn't think that other people or other families were better than us. And we didn't say that we were better than other families either. We didn't say that out loud. But I think that we felt it. We were proud. We were not ashamed of ourselves, quite the opposite, but we were still on that spectrum. We were on the pride and shame continuum, and we were bound by it, bound by delicate chains. We were not free. We are not free because pride is like the ego. Pride is all about what it can take when it's unhealthy, until it develops an appetite for what it can give, until it develops that capacity. You know, it makes me wonder what it was like for someone like Jesus. Jesus, the Son of God. I wonder if Jesus grew up believing that he was in a good family. It makes me wonder about the teachings on the Sermon on the Mount. Judge not, lest ye be judged. Jesus warns against the practice of condemning others. Don't waste time with those who don't want to change. Treat others as you wish to be treated. Identify false prophets by their fruits. Build your life on a solid foundation. A wise man builds his house on a rock. Enter the narrow gate. This part teaches us to walk the hard road in life. And lastly, be direct with God. This is the point of the reflection. It's important to be clear, so important that we ask for what we need. How many of us are comfortable asking for what we need? Show of hands. I love that you are, Rick. Thank you. You have 90 seconds to figure out how to raise your hand. Bill Withers says, please swallow your pride, right? Please swallow your pride. If I have pain, you need to borrow for. No one can fill those of your needs that you don't let show. Right? Figure out how to raise the hand. Now, the whole of the Sermon on the Mount is much larger than this. The Sermon on the Mount appears in the Gospel of Matthew in chapters 5 to 7. In Matthew, chapter 7, verses 16 to 20 reads, "Grapes don't come from thorn bushes, figs don't come from thorny weeds. In the same way, every good tree produces good fruit, but a bad tree produces bad fruit. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot produce good fruit." Of course, this is one of many different translations. Grapes and weeds and thorny weeds and thistles. These things can vary, but the point is the same. Nature implies a meaning. There is a complex order to things. And as Alan Watts reminds us, the saying in the New Testament that figs don't grow on thistles nor grapes on thorns applies equally to the world today. You do not find an intelligent organism living in an unintelligent environment. Look, there is a tree in the garden, and every summer it produces apples, so we call it an apple tree. There's one right out there. Because the tree apples. That's what it does. Let's pick back up on that in a bit, but for right now, let's talk about the heavens. I want to shift us a little bit. I want to talk about the special ones who live up in the heavens. Not God and not the angels, but the space people, the aliens who visit Earth from different planets. How many of you are freaked out right now? Let's talk about the song by Joe Cocker, because he sang about all this. He sang once while traveling across the sky. This lovely planet caught my eye, and being curious, I flew close by, and now I'm caught here until I die. I lost all memory of where I'd been. We all forgot we could fly. Someday we'll all turn into peaceful men and women, and we'll return into the sky. But until we die, we're learning to live together. This song is called Space Captain. It was written in the early 70s. Decades later, they turned this song into a Patrick Stewart movie. I still love the music from the 70s, really, what's not to love? Marvin Gaye and Fleetwood Mac, David Bowie and Michael Jackson, the Carpenters, Karen and Richard, Simon and Garfunkel, Sonny and Cher, Donnie and Marie Osmond, Stephen Bishop. The list goes on and on. Elton John and Bernie Taupin wrote a song in 1973. It still has salience today. It was in the key of E minor. The melodic theme enters on the 11th, on the B flat. The suspended part of the chord. The music is tense, the mood is tense. The words were tense as well, and the singer is anxious. He's worried about something. He's suspicious of those around him, and Elton John sings, "I can see by your eyes that you must be lying if you think that I don't have a clue. Baby, you're crazy if you think that you can fool me, because I've seen that movie too." It's the one where the players are acting surprised, thinking love is just a 4-letter word, between forcing smiles with the knives in their eyes. Well, the action becomes so absurd. So keep your auditions for somebody who hasn't got so much to lose, because you can tell by the lines that I'm reciting. I've seen that movie too. I've seen that movie too as the title of the song. It's the fifth and final song on the second side of a double album. I stole my proud sister's copy of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and I held on to it shamelessly until I bought a copy of my own. I'm sure I held on to it for a while after I had my own copy, and eventually I gave my sister back what I had taken from her. I like the song so much because I really love the movies. I'm absolutely fascinated with the movies. Now, I'm not a glamour guy. I'm not a Hollywood type per se. I don't study the details broadly like movie buffs do. I don't know the details about which actor starred in which film and which year, but I know what I know and I like what I like. I'm just fascinated with the movies, and what fascinates me most has nothing to do with the fame and fortune. It has everything to do with what lives in us because of what fortunate and famous people bring to life on the movie screen. It all started for me when I was still living in the South. We were so divided back then. Black people and white people were so divided in Durham, North Carolina, a city that is populated by equal measures of both. The two major political parties were so divided. Women and men were so divided, but not when we went to the movies. Something about that experience was salvific. 4 times a week, at 7 and 9 on Friday and Saturday night, we lined up in front of the Windsong movie theater, just off in the mall, just off Martin Luther King. We lined up from all walks of life, all people, all colors, all races, all genders, all political predispositions, all sexual orientations, all everythings. And on Friday and Saturday night, we turned out and we reimagined the world together. I do like watching great movies, to be sure, but I really love watching all of us in all of our glory, standing in line, patiently waiting to see the last hyped up blockbuster. For me, this was a marker of a public theology. It was the measure of what we are collectively willing to believe. Whether or not it's true, it doesn't matter, it's just the movies. Something about all of us standing in line seemed sacred to me back then. Something about all of us standing in line seems sacred to me now because we were all there and because we were all hopeful together. Whether we had come for the romantic comedy or for the action film, whether we were there for the science fiction or down for the drama, we were all there together. We've fallen out of the habit of being together in this way. Being alone is so much more convenient now. We don't have to go all the way to the theaters anymore. We can stay in our own homes. We don't have to stand in line because our cell phones seem to have access to everything anyway. It seems to be right there at our fingertips. And we can watch whatever movie we want, whenever and wherever we'd like, without having to leave the comfort of our homes, without having to be with other people. Entertainment is so convenient now. And so is isolation and loneliness. So convenient. We have to work actively not to be alone sometimes. It's so beautiful now when we do that, when we come together, when we show up for one another. It's just so beautiful, and little miracles happen, and big miracles. They happen so quickly because love moves faster than the speed of light. I was at a concert at Town Hall on Friday night, and I saw the little miracles with my own eyes. They were dancing in front of the Drop-Offs band as the band played, "Don't Let Me Down." Don't let me down, for their closing number, and the children were dancing. The sons and the daughters of the people who were playing music were dancing together. All of us were dancing. We, the people from all walks of life, all people, all colors, all races, all genders, all political predispositions, all sexual orientations. All of us dancing because love and little miracles were happening right there and happening right here as well. And they were moving faster than light. Love and little miracles move so much faster than light. That's how we make the dreams come true. That's how love and bigger miracles become newly possible. I learned this from the movies, so it has to be true. I learned from a science fiction film. Everything gets better when we learn to move faster than light. I saw this with my own eyes in a Star Trek film called First Contact. This is the film that I was talking about earlier because it was based on Space Captain, the song that I recited to you, the one they turned into a Patrick Stewart movie. The crux of the film is about how we grow when we learn to move faster than light. We become so much more attractive. The space people, the aliens who visit the Earth from other planets, they're attracted to us when we move faster than light. They think it's sexy. They think it's out of this world, and I'm attracted to it too. I'm impressed by those who can move faster than light. All Star Trek movies take place in the distant future, right? This particular Star Trek movie, however, involves time travel. They go back in time, so this part of this film takes place only 39 years from now. So not so in the future, not so in the distant future after all. It takes place at a very specific time on a very specific day, the day before first contact with space people. Now, you know the old Star Trek, right? The Enterprise and Captain Kirk. Got a shout out from the back, that's funny. Scotty and Uhura, Dr. McCoy, and of course the incomparable Mr. Spock. Mr. Spock was the alien, right? He was from the planet Vulcan. Now all of this sounds silly because there is no planet Vulcan. The planet Vulcan is a science fiction creation. The reason that the planet Vulcan remains a science fiction creation is because we haven't discovered it yet. Over the years, we show a pattern. First, we dream about something silly, something science fiction. And then over time, we make the science fiction real, and it quickly normalizes. Transparent aluminum was a Star Trek thing until we discovered it in real life, and we use it now for building stronger, tougher, and fire-resistant glass. Three-dimensional materialization was a Star Trek thing until we discovered it and used it in real life. Now there's a 3D printer at the high school. We can buy one for North Chapel for $1,000. The flip action communicator used to be a Star Trek thing until we discovered it in real life and started making cell phones, as if chatting and taking selfies had become suddenly important. These things used to be science fiction, but now almost everyone owns one, at least one. Almost everyone uses it every day. Biometric data tracking, the global positioning system, bionic eyes, real-time translation, all of these things were silly, and now they're real. How did this happen? It's incredible. What conditions allowed for this to happen? How did we get out of our own way enough to make it so? Somehow, we allowed ourselves to dream. We allowed ourselves, and we allowed one another to imagine and reimagine the world together. As it turns out, in the Star Trek movie, we don't discover the planet Vulcan. In fact, the planet Vulcan discovers us. We, the humans, met the Vulcans by serendipity. The Vulcans were just cruising through the local solar system. They were on a routine survey mission. They had no interest in us. We were too primitive for them. We hadn't reached a high enough level of intelligence. We weren't smart enough for them. But 39 years from now, we will make a spaceship that moves faster than light. And when the Vulcans see us, when they see this Earth-born spaceship moving faster than light, well, it's enough to say that that will pique their interest. Enough to raise a Vulcan eyebrow or two. So they decide to come down to Earth and they meet the humans face to face. They do this in Bozeman, Montana, as it turns out. Once while traveling across the sky, a lovely planet caught my eye, and being curious, I flew close by. That's how we'll get Spock. Now, you might think that I'm being silly right now. It's pretty clear, though, from a careful reading of the transcript, that Spock is probably the guy who wrote that old Joe Cocker song. Of course, I'm joking, and I hope you get it. The Star Trek movie dramatizes what the song is all about. More deeply, it dramatizes the philosophy of Alan Watts, one of the great theologians of the 20th century. In 1965, 5 years before the Joe Cockers wrote Space Captain, and 31 years before they turned that song into a Patrick Stewart movie, Alan Watts said this: "Maybe 2 billion years ago, somebody came from another galaxy in a flying saucer and had a look at our solar system. And they looked it over, and they shrugged their shoulders and said, just a bunch of rocks. Later on, maybe 2 million years later, they came back and they looked around, and they said, excuse me, we thought this was just a bunch of rocks, but it's peopling. It's alive. It's done something intelligent after all." His point was that apple trees apple in the same way that this world peoples. We grow out of this world. It does not belong to us. Now, I'm not discussing a Star Trek movie to get to the philosophy of Alan Watts, which would seem legitimate and acceptable. I'm discussing the Alan Watts philosophy to get to the Star Trek movie, which is ill-advised, but it happens to be true. My ego, my pride, wants to be acceptable in your eyes and before the holy, which in my theology is the same thing. My soul wants to find a way, not my ego, but my soul wants to find a way to say, I love you, which is harder for me to do. So I have to smack down my ego until it becomes the servant of the soul. I have to give up my pride and be honest with you, flawed, imperfect me, vulnerable me. I am moved to tears by what this particular Star Trek movie says, and it would take me hours to explain why I'm right about all this, but it reduces to this. Humanity chooses peace after the miracle of first contact. Higher consciousness develops, and great things begin to happen, as one of the crew members of the Enterprise in the film says herself. First contact unites humanity in a way that no one thought possible, when we realize that we are not alone in the universe. Poverty, disease, war, all of these will be gone in the next 50 years. Go to the movies for a moment. Stand in line, get your popcorn, sit down and reimagine the world. Reimagine a world in which poverty, disease, and war are gone. The masters of war are fearful. They want to stop first contact. The crew of the Enterprise, the courageous ones, they want to ensure it. Which side are you on? What is the spiritual disposition of your heart? On the covers of your orders of service, there is a picture of two great artists, Susan Tedeschi, who is singing, and Derek Trucks, who is playing guitar. Incidentally, they married in 2001. They have 2 children, both in their 20s. What I love about their relationship is how direct they are to one another. How direct they are, it seems, to God. Because for me, music is a form of worship. It's like Jesus said in the Gospel of Matthew, in the Sermon on the Mount, be direct with God. Music seems to be the most direct way I have found. It's good advice. You can see how direct they are with each other, or with the music, or with God. You can decide. Just by looking at the photo, by looking at their bodies and at their faces. Susan Tedeschi is yelling at her husband. More precisely, she's yelling at her husband's slide guitar. She's yelling, together, 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 as they sing the song, Space Captain, in 2016. We're learning to live together. Derek Trucks and the rest of the band drive the music forward. They drive it passionately. They are loud. They are raucous, brutal, deep, deep blue, lion's roar blue, and gritty. They are powerful enough to pierce the pretenses of our world today. A world in which a desperate, loquacious Unitarian Universalist minister can say, I don't know what to say from the pulpit about Gaza. In the name of all things holy, let us find a better way. Let us remember the central teachings of Matthew on the Sermon on the Mount. Judge not, lest ye be judged. We're all God's children. Welcome, stranger. Love thy neighbor. Live long and prosper. I think that teaching is in the Apocrypha. Let us remember that Jesus was a Jew, the one who taught us these things. Let us deliver to ourselves life's complexity and strength enough to break the collective ego, to shatter its bones until the ego is the servant of the soul. I pray to God that we have strength to do this. Like the little miracles, I dance, I sing, I pray to the holy energy within, to the God that can be named and to the God beyond all naming. Don't let me down. Don't let me down. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.